It's time to gather together. Hi there, I'm Yelta, and I'll be buying the first round while we chat about Final Fantasy XIV. This is episode 172. Pull up a chair and join us. On the menu tonight, become the Darkness Screenshot Sweepstakes, patch 5.01 notes. We're talking Shadowbringers, spoilers, developers blog, and fan mail. But first, let us shoot the shit. What has been going on this week? Hey, Ruby.
Hi, Yelta.
Hi.
How are you?
Good.
I'm great, too.
Awesome.
It's Shadowbringers.
It's Shadowbringers.
Yeah.
Shadowbringers spoilers.
Everything Shadowbringers. Everything's spoiled tonight, so we're going to talk all about what we did in Shadowbringers. Last week was the patch notes. Last week was your one chance to listen without getting too much information. But from here on out, expect to hear spoilers. So, I did all of Shadowbringers, finished everything. I finished on Thursday of last week. In fact, I had a prior commitment that I had to bail on. I was going to be on Work to Game, their casually hardcore podcast, on that Thursday, and we had to reschedule because I couldn't get it done.
You were not ready yet. I appreciate that you're like, guys, no.
What happened? So what happened was Wednesday night, I had all day like Monday and all day Wednesday. Not all day. Forgive me. I had all day after work. So I had from like 6 to midnight or 1 a.m. And I did that Monday and I did it again Wednesday. And at 1 a.m., here we go, spoilers. I'm walking into Amarot, whatever it's called. And I'm like, fuck, no way. I'm seeing Emmett Selleck, and I'm like, there's no way. This is not wrapping up here. There's going to be another 8-man after this. I know it. This is not happening. So even if I get through this, 30 minutes for a dungeon, because I'm using trusts. I did all trusts.
Yeah.
30 minutes for a dungeon, then to do an 8-man, then to watch all of the story after that, and to comprehend it and enjoy it, wasn't going to happen after 1 a.m. So I told him, we need to reschedule. We did it Sunday, so shout out. I was on Work to Game, Casually Hardcore. Go check them out on their YouTube channel. That's Work to Game, and it was the most recent Casually Hardcore podcast. It was great. Had a blast talking with them about all the spoilery stuff. We scaled on a Great Serpent of Ronka scale. It was either 1 to 5.
1 to 5 Great Serpents of Ronka?
That's right.
The Great Serpent of Ronka is the best.
Scree! I love everything about Shadowbringers. There's nothing that bothered me, pissed me off. This was such a good expansion. And this patch that we just had was really good and tied in really well. So I'm very happy with all the stuff that I saw and got to do. But again, I got through everything. I finished Eden tonight. I don't even know what my gear score is. I've got like 2 tome bought pieces, and I've got some accessories from what I did tonight in Eden. I have an accessory from what did we do? Innocence EX?
Yep.
Got one accessory. It was for healer. I'm playing caster. But Raven
accidentally passed.
She passed. That's why you should always greed.
Oh, I'm such a loot whore. I greed everything.
Always hit greed.
Unless someone's like, I really want that for my alt, and then I'll pass. But I've already greeded it by then, so you have to wait.
Yeah, it'll be fun, Yelta, if we revisit like loot rules and things, in a later podcast, because there is some, I wouldn't say ethics, but like some courtesies, etiquette, that you would have. So, and one that we always say is, if you want a piece of gear, say something.
Don't loot first, though.
Don't loot first.
Let people pass.
Don't loot. Because if you don't loot it,
type
those
out the
other
words,
people.
I need that for my bard.
There you go. The other people have an opportunity who have already looted to pass it. If you loot first and then tell people, somebody's clicking that 8th loot and it's over. So just set your hand down and say, hey, I'd like a piece of gear, please. The worst thing to say is no. Mm-hmm. Screw you, loser. So yeah, I did. So I guess I did Innocence EX, and I also did Titania EX. That's it.
Yeah.
Titania EX.
And
I get Titania and Twintania or Twintania.
Oh, no. See, I know enough Shakespeare that I know Titania.
I know who they are fundamentally, but my tongue sometimes wants to put that twin.
We have to go murder more dragons. Is that what you're telling me?
Well, that's going to make it even worse. But that's fine. Fairies, dragons. Are dragons fairy type? No, fairy type kills dragon. This isn't Pokemon. Hold on.
This isn't Pokemon.
So, anyway, a great start to Shadowbringers for your boy Rubicon Vale. The EX is down. The story done. Eden's down. The gear score's coming up. I hadn't leveled any other 80s yet, but my eyes on Culinarian, Botanist, and we'll talk about it a little later. I'm not super impressed with Summoner at the moment. It's working for me because it's what I play. I'm not super impressed to hit more buttons than a red mage for the same DPS, but we'll see how it goes. I may change mains depending, but I just want, we're still in that potencies could be adjusted and things of that nature.
Yeah, we have not had the adjustment patch, and we won't for, another month? Because I'm sure Savage will come out. They're going to see the feedback from Savage, and then we're probably going to get some potency changes.
Right. And it's not as if things are difficult to beat. The worst thing I've had trouble beating is the Titania EX dummy. Well, I had more trouble beating the dummy.
Right. Somebody said those are I haven't tried any of the new dummies, and I probably should. But I have heard from a couple different sources, one last night, that the dummies are fairly overtuned. So
that's good to know because I had immense difficulty, and then when I'm actually in the fight, no problem whatsoever. So maybe I was carried.
Well,
Doubt it.
No, when we were counting numbers really
I licked
fast,
my finger and held it in the air. Now, I was not beating the black mage.
No,
it's a black mage.
Radiant's a fucking beast, and he has told us he's going to be greedy. He sometimes gets shields that maybe should go to the tank. Raven and I are both very much like... It's like Taja in Sari, the Snake Boy. We knew Taja was going to stay in. He's melee DPS for that first jump. If you're people I know and people I play with regularly, I will healers adjust for you.
Yeah, well, and that rescue can come in handy for a black mage who can easily teleport himself right back to his ley lines. It's not a problem. So, life is good with me. Yelta, tell us what you've been up to.
Well, I think by last time, gotten 80 white mage and the story done. And I've got 80 black mage done. I've done both the role quests. They're interesting. Kind of cool. I've gotten Miner, Botanist, and Fishing up to 80. They are not geared yet, but I'm kind of waiting to see. I don't know. I don't know. I think I can gather everything in the game right now. So, yeah. I did get 76 Culinarian. There's a spreadsheet out there that's just... They have made it really easy to level our crafters this time around. Gatherers were fast. Crafters are you kidding me fast? So, I can make 3 recipes, and apparently with 2 macros, thank you, Balance Discord, get from 70 to 80, or 71 to 80. So it's apparently very easy. I know we have people in the free company, lots of people on the internet have like all 80 crafters already and fully melded sets and shit. So I'm hoping that, here's what's weird for me. The crafters and gatherers were really easy to level, in my opinion. I'm hoping that the real test is we're going to have that Ishgard reconstruction something, and it sounds like it's going to... In fact, I'm scared with kind of how they described it. It sounds like it's going to be like PvP with seasons, and it's going to be difficult and whatever. So I think that's going to be the end game for crafters. Is it gatherers too? I can't remember.
I think gatherers are involved, and that's an interesting way to look at it, because if the leveling up process is easy, there has to be other content, or it's just, wow, that was not that leveling up was hard for Crafted. You ate up your leaves or whatever, and then you got it done. But to think that it's even easier this go around makes me really more hopeful that they spent more time developing this other content.
And I've really enjoyed even the crafting and gathering. Fishing's a whole separate one. Role quests or collective, whatever they're called, I can't remember, the ones at the Crystarium. They have fun, interesting stories. So like the fisherman one, you're basically like, the world is destroyed, right? There's a couple of, big cities and a few villages and whatever, towns and stuff, but, a lot of the world has been destroyed. So there are people suffering from illnesses, and a lot of them are like, well, if we had a better diet. So basically the fishing one is like, go fish up stuff that, fulfills the dietary restrictions or cures, stuff. And then, there's like some drama. Everything in this game so far has been about taking care of people. And as a warrior of light, you've always kind of been, I'm going to find a way to fix you. Or fix this. But even the gathering quests have been, how do I save the fucking world? Well, and Heaven's Ward was too. I don't remember Shadowbringers at all. But Heaven's Ward was like, well, in the Sea of Clouds, stuff has trouble growing here, so we had to, go back to Gridania and talk to people and figure out how to feed our people with stuff that doesn't grow here. So, and it's just kind of that plus, so... But you have to be careful on what you decide to level up, apparently, because there are 5 of those different quest lines, and you can only do them once. So, yeah, each one once. So if you did it in Minor, you cannot go back and do that on Botanist and get that, because there's huge XP, especially if you turn in high quality items.
New Game Plus, Yelta.
No, I don't think you're going to get any rewards from New Game Plus. Someone was talking about that last night, and I'm like, I think New Game Plus is just going to be the experience of going back and seeing everything. You're going to set the flag to have not yet completed Heaven's Ward, and it's going to start you at the beginning. Or so, I don't know. I'd be happy to be surprised, but I don't think they're going to be like, here, reset everything to 0 and get all the rewards and get all the XP and stuff. So, anyway, I actually played with Bard. I played with Machinist because I need that third role quest. I'm going to do a tank one too, but I've decided I wanted to do the physical DPS one next. I might be doing it on Dragoon. I don't know why. But I kind of like murdered some hunts and did some stuff on Bard and also on Machinist. And I'm like, I don't care.
It's because Dragoon is awesome right now.
I don't know. Dragoon seemed to, and I don't even like melee DPS, but I might take it Dragoon through it. So that's kind of cool. And then I did Eden, and we're going to save spoilers for Eden towards the end of the show, I think we talked about earlier.
Yeah, we'll leave a gap, because maybe not everybody who's listening is done with Eden, so we'll give a pause, and we'll declare, and then we'll talk about Eden, which isn't really a whole lot.
No, it's not a ton of, and I actually already got spoiled, because I clicked on Yo Spoiler, and it was like a leak, and I think it was true, because it looked like what I saw today. But anyway, I don't like spoilers. I know you had trouble with spoilers again
today.
Right,
I was actually pretty lucky during Shadowbringers proper to dodge spoilers, but today was terrible. I think when people thought this embargo, Yoshida gave some date, or somebody gave a date,
but it was like the 18th, I thought. So
that's what I thought. But people were like, "Oh, it's been 2 weeks or 3 weeks or whatever. It's time. It's time." Mm-hmm. But Eden's only come out today, and so they were like all the spoilers. So I saw
not even
somebody's
home from work yet.
Not even home from work. I saw somebody's tweet about puzzles and somebody's tweet about this, that, and it's like, come on, guys! So I had to put a big tweet declaration, like, just cool. One day, give us one frickin' day.
Well, and I think it's really on my part to not get spoiled by not visiting Twitter. But Jesus Christ, could you just wait a second. I'm still not tweeting major Shadowbringer spoilers, right?
Right.
I'm still trying hard not to.
I had to think twice before posting the Innocence and Titania EX clears until you said, yeah, their pictures are in the patch notes. I'm like, oh, yeah, okay. That's fine.
Yep.
And a shout out to Klaus, Nightbringer. He came with us.
Yeah, we had a good
EX.
time. We've cleared a lot of stuff with him, or farmed stuff with him lately. It's been a blast. The cross-roll link shells have been nice. I am still sad that they're not larger, but we did create a Nofika's Bosom one. I think we were thinking about creating a secondary one that's more like raid-ready people. I think that was, I don't remember, Taja or somebody was saying, my brain shut off, Zante. So maybe having a second one that's like more people we thought were cool from Party Finder or something. I don't know.
Gotcha.
So, but we do have a Nofika's Bosom cross-roll link shell. If you're interested, message someone or, I don't know, get a hold of somebody. Maybe we can get you invited. But it's still only what is it?
64?
4 people. That's not many. So
Come on, Yoshida.
I've been like, I invited a few people. I gave a few people invitation, powers. But I'm like, guys, remember, we can't just fill this full of whoever. It really needs to be cross-world people. It's not. I don't think we want to replace the link shell yet. Mm-hmm. I don't know. It's not quite good enough yet, but I am hopeful that they'll decide, oh, it's not crashing the servers, and then just like at least double it. I don't know. I want to be able to play with more people. Speaking of that, I think a bunch of us officers of the free company were like, we don't even know some of these new people.
Yeah, we did have a big conversation about that.
Yeah, I don't know.
I thought he was your friend. No, I thought he was your friend.
I thought he was your friend.
Where's all the money in the chest? No. Just kidding.
No.
That shit's locked down.
We've been very, very careful to be. When you get invited to our free company, your rank is inverted nipple.
Yep.
You can't fucking do anything. If you like stick around for a little while and chat with us or run stuff with us, you'll get to flat chested. You're not even bosom buddy at that point.
Oh no,
right?
you're not even close to a bra.
Yeah.
But, I don't know.
I don't know. And then Boob Wranglers is our general officer position.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
But yeah, no, that was my week. I guess we can move on then. Yeah, you can come shoot the shit. Go to the website, www.gtffxiv.com, and try to balance out. We have 2 prolific, apparently, spam bots. So they keep saying, wow, the stuff you post is very interesting. I will save this for later. Messages.
That's great.
I'm like, fantastic. All right, Ruby, I think I'm going to let you call out the list of those people who bought us around. So we do have some donations.
We do. So big thank you and shout outs to our patrons. We've got Wade, Brian, Demi45, Sevokevo, Blue Moon, Fleur, Taja, and Varya Kamon. Thank you so much. And also to those that PayPal. Thank you for your donations. You keep us going. You keep the web hosting up, and we just really appreciate our listeners, whether you're a patron or not. Thank you for listening. We only ask you share us. You talk about us on Twitter or whatever social media you're into. Share us and give us a like on our social media and our review pages. We really appreciate it.
All right, then the first round is news. We have Become the Darkness Screenshot Sweepstakes. This looks like another one that's easy to enter, but I'll forget about it.
Mm-hmm. Like we forgot about the last one.
Yeah,
now,
I'm like,
50 Mundus in our free company won something because he entered.
Did he?
Yes. And, yeah. So you got to enter these things to win. And it's not that difficult to win these, I don't think.
Well, especially a lot of these are like, how many, for submitting 2 screenshots properly, 100 winners will win something. So this is the Become the Darkness Screenshot Sweepstakes. So Shadowbringers is here, blah, 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 to celebrate. They want us to show the transformation from Warrior of Light into Warrior of Darkness. So, they've first of all asked us to refrain from posting spoiler-related content as part of the entry. The entry period is, it started on July 12th and it's through July 26th. So what they really want us to do is how to enter 2 screenshots that follow the established theme. You have to follow the Final Fantasy XIV Twitter account. And you have to submit your entry on Twitter while following the official sweepstakes rules. So, 2 required screenshots depicting your character shifting from light to darkness, the hashtag FFXIV, the hashtag WOD sweepstakes, and at mention of at FFXIV.en, your full in-game character name and world. And they note, please be sure to carefully provide the correct spelling of your character's name and world. If we can't confirm your character's name and world using the information provided, the entry will be invalidated. So, you can also send an optional comment for your picture, and you will get your selection, if you win, from the available in-game prizes below. Surely they have given us new prizes.
Mm-hmm.
Scrolls down, no.
Mm-hmm.
No, they have not. It is the Gallicap, Noble Barding, Mandragora Choker, Araman Choker, Bluebird Earring, and Scarf of Wondrous Wit. You have to abide by the following rules and guidelines. You can't feature multiple characters in each screenshot, only your character. You cannot edit your entry after submission. Entries must be your own screenshots. You have to read, agree to, and comply with the official rules below. They will select the 100 winners through a random drawing. So just post something. It's not even going to be judged on how good it is. Right? Yeah. You have to be a legal resident of the 50 states of the American United States, the District of Columbia, Puerto Rico, Canada, excluding Quebec. What are you up to, Quebec? You have to have
They too French.
You have to have a valid North American Square Enix account and be over the age of 13. So there is a link for the official sweepstakes rules, so go check that out if you want to do it. Man, just I should just do this. I think there's a couple of these I don't have yet. So
yeah, don't get the Scarf of Wondrous Wit.
No,
they'll sell it to you soon enough.
Well, if they put it up again.
They may not. Maybe they'll swap it out. Maybe that's their plan. They swap it out with a different gift or whatever. I didn't get a chance to tell you about the triple triad changes that I had, that I witnessed whenever I opened up the new platinum packs. I won 2 platinum packs from the triple triad deal. And get this. It's the same fucking cards that it's been the entire goddamn 6 years of this game since.
No.
Fucking, damn it.
Fucking what?
Same shit. I got a Shiva and a Labre. A Labre is fucking dead. For God's sakes. I don't want that card.
He's been dead for 3 patches
Gordon whooped
now.
his ass.
Oh my god. That's incredible.
Fix it, Yoshida.
I just don't even know. I'm like, why wouldn't they refresh everything else in this game, right? They make things easier to get and whatever. Why, oh why, is there not a new mix of... All right, do we want to cover the patch 5.01 notes? Quickly?
Yeah, I think we can cover that, sure.
Yeah. All right, playable content. New Chronicles of a New Era has been added, so it's the Eden stuff, and we're not going to spoil it, so... they did add new orchestrion roles. I think they have to do with Eden. I think all of them do.
I hope it's that first song when you come into the...
They adjusted 3 actions, Lancer, Dragoon, Scholar, and Astrologian. I think all of them were like MP reduce or duration increased, kind of disembowel guided, they all seemed like buffs. So, further changes are planned for patch 5.05. So I think when we're going to see the first rollout of the serious adjustments. So, they've apparently fixed some Gunbreaker action sounds. So
now, this is a deal. I've seen this today because Mary has been posting sounds on his Twitter account. I guess he put it on YouTube. Let me see if I can pull him up real fast. But he's been posting stuff. And in fact, on Reddit, He was saying that people were accusing him of making the sounds worse quality to try to prove a point that wasn't there. Very Mary very much says that the sound has gotten worse since they've corrected it. He says Gnashing Fang is okay. The biggest issue is with the solid barrel combo. And he compares the new audio with the old audio. It's just, I don't know. It's kind of weird. People aren't liking what they've done with the audio.
Yeah, I don't play enough Gunbreaker to really know, but I don't know. If they've just adjusted them, though, they can adjust them again, so. Alright, they did add the new raid dungeon, Eden. We'll talk spoilers later, but it is, again, 4 different fights with story in between. To get in, you need average item level 425. I think a lot of us had 444 before going in, so 425 shouldn't be too hard to get.
What drops in Amarot? 430s, I think.
I can't remember. But you can also have bought tome gear, which is in the 440s, isn't it? Mm-hmm. So if you've gotten any tome, I had like full tome gear, and I had like a weapon for Titania, and I had like accessories from Innocence, and I know not everyone will have that, but it wasn't super hard. So one of the things that's noticeable is the treasure coffers that appear will not yield gear, but yield tokens, which isn't new to us.
Right.
But they've changed it up. You can still only get 1 token per raid every week, so you can only get 4 tokens a week. But I really love the fact that each floor drops more kinds, and it drops 8 instead of 4. So, and on top of that, the tokens aren't gears and lenses and blah, blah, blah. They're like, the piece that's for a chest looks like a chest piece.
Yes.
And it's named like, it's just, Ruby, it's a small thing, but it's like, God, I shouldn't have to think about which one's an accessory.
Right. It was a cute concept to think, like the goblins were, lenses and screws and things like that. But come on, man. This is so much easier to see. I was so surprised to see a helmet, to see a suit of armor. I was like, is this actual gear? What are we getting here? Of course, they're the tokens. But it was great because everybody can walk away with something. Now, usually people are like, well, I'm wanting accessories, or I'm looking for the shoot.
Some people still pass. Yeah, a lot of stuff hits the
floor.
But
what was also great was there were body piece drops in the first tier. So you don't have to only run the last tier, which clogs that up. Plus, you're not helping those that are trying to get through the first couple of tiers because they only give accessories. Not anymore.
And I haven't looked, but I'm sure there's a guide out there how to maximize your gear per week kind of guide, but
sure.
I just kind of bought whatever. I'm not sure I might Savage, I'm not sure yet. So we'll see. And if I Savage, it's going to be kind of casually. I'll probably do it in Party Finder, and if I can get comfortable with it, then maybe I'll see if the free company wants to do it. Well, I don't know. We'll see what happens. So I'm not super worried about min-maxing my tokens. First of all, you can't even buy a weapon for 7 weeks.
Right.
So, just and for 7 weeks, you should be able to gear up something. Well, and the new tomes will be out. No, tomestones will be out once the Savage comes out. So, but anyway, I liked the changes. I feel like it throws more stuff at you, and for normal mode, it doesn't bother me. In fact, as far as I'm concerned, they could way earlier unlock the normal mode token drops to being unlimited. Not yet. Not even after Savage is out, but, I think they could do that earlier so we could gear stuff up earlier with this stuff. But I like the changes they made. Do you agree?
I agree. I completely love the changes that were made to it. It's normal. It doesn't bother me that things like that is experimented on in the normal content. I'm very happy.
I think they've also adjusted some of the item exchange. Was the body piece always 4? body and pants were they for before? I can't remember.
Yeah. They
were?
stuck
Okay,
the same
they
with
just
that. 2 helmet,
could-
2 hand, 2 feet, 4 body, 4 legs.
Waist and accessories are 1.
Just 1.
So what really changed is, if I really want to, I could just go for body pieces this week or whatever. I think you should get your stuff more quickly. I don't think they really meant to lock us out of this gear. So, and there are 2 NPCs now. There's an NPC in Yulmore, of course, but there is an NPC, and they take you to him, I think, after you finish up in Amarang. So there are 2 NPCs that will trade stuff to you. Did you preview any of the equipment and see what it looked like in your
Oh, I
character,
forgot to do that.
or-
I should have done that.
I tried on every piece except for accessories. I was surprised because like the healing set and the healing and the casting sets were not just color swaps of each other. They
Good
were
to
color
know.
swaps of other things, but I think it's like the healer set was a color swap with like the striking set or something. I can't remember for sure. Don't write me. But there were color swaps of stuff, but it wasn't like the healer and the black mage, healer and caster were color swaps of each other. The stuff I saw looked pretty good. I'm not sure I'm in love with every piece. Some of the tanking stuff looked very basic and boring and whatever, but I thought the healer, like body piece, the pants were really cute. I could see really pairing those up for glamour with other stuff. So, a little bit different. Some of the pieces were a little bit different. Some were real basic, but some were pretty cool. All right, and again, they're giving us a weekly drop if you do the 4th floor. And that will be eventually traded in for lightweight tombstones, which will eventually be able to be turned in for weapons. Same old kind of thing. But that's okay. These 4 duties are now in Duty Roulette Mentor. So expect you could get those. They did change the item level required to register for Duty Roulette Mentor. It was 410, it's now 425, which only makes sense. So I originally scrolled past the word PvP here, and I saw all these dancer nerfs, but they're only for PvP.
Yeah.
So a lot of the potencies, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 different things had potencies reduced quite a bit. Apparently dancers are just murderfying everyone in PvP.
Good to know.
Yeah. I do think dancer might still get some nerfs, but we'll see what happens. All right. Something about adrenaline rush changed. I couldn't tell you. Potency reductions. Oh, new items have been added. These are the gear sets, Ruby.
Very nice.
Yeah, it's... Yeah, so you see the Lalafell, that's the white mage set? That is not the black mage with the a similar outfit.
So which one's the black mage, to the left or to the right?
Oh my god, I can't remember.
The one on the left is nice.
I think it's the kitty.
Good.
I can't remember.
I like that one. Looks
like a
good.
coat with a short waist and then like long in the back.
Yeah, that looks good.
Yeah.
The white mage
No,
looks like a wedding dress.
I thought it looked better than that to me in game, but and they added new minions. I know one of the minions comes out of Eden. Ran it 3 times, still didn't get it, but I'm not really worried about it. Of course, they've added new achievements. They've added stuff to the Adult Translation Dictionary. They've added music. The volume of the title screen music has been increased, and I'm like, bitch, can I shut that off?
You don't like Ho Heidi Ho?
I don't need that.
Oh,
I don't. But you know, I haven't been a fan of this new title screen. So.
Yeah, right. I know.
Yeah. Character creation text for both Hylians and the Lost has been updated to clarify Hrothgar lore. So, and they changed a bunch of stuff. I think one of the things they fixed in here was it one of the voices. An issue wherein the correct audio for Viera voice types 7 and 9 did not play while in combat.
I heard something about that.
Yeah.
I was pleased that they fixed my physic issue. I realized when I immediately logged in and tried all my macros that physic would not work as a macro, and they have corrected that.
They've corrected. There's a lot of things on here that they corrected. That's pretty cool. All right, I think we're going to move now into our spoilerific. Oh my god! So this is going to be heavy Shadowbringers spoiler content.
Yeah.
The boat sinks and Jesus dies. I mean...
Oh, I hadn't read it. Hold on.
Oh my God, Ruby, I don't even know where to start.
So I had suggested earlier we talk about the story, because there is so much with the story, really the ending of the story. We can go through the path, and I'm sure we'll forget things. I don't have a script in front of me. I'm not looking at some serious notes. We're kind of going by memory. I'm sure there'll be things that we forget. If there's something that you're like, oh, but you didn't talk about the implications of Amarat society or something, tell us later and we'll cover it for you. But I kind of want to start with story, because I think there are a lot of big truth nuggets at the end of the story that warrant some discussion. At least from the get-go, talking about the story, you've got the Warrior of Light appearing on the first, meeting up with the Scions. I guess like a brief synopsis here. Meeting up with the Scions, and then as you uncover things about the first, you understand the world and the mission to destroy the Light Wardens to clear up the mess. My first gut-wrenching moment through this story was when the lady became a sin eater, when they stabbed her.
When you first go find Alizé, and she's
Correct.
caring for people who have been basically hurt by sin eaters, because basically it's like vampirism. Apparently if you get stabbed by a sin eater, you eventually become a sin eater.
Right. There's a ramp-up process, and you eventually turn. And she's stabbed in the story, and I guess the how serious the wound is maybe changes how quickly you turn. Yeah. She turned rather quickly, and it was gruesome. And that really was the moment I was like, Shadowbringers is real.
It is not pulling punches. That was I was not bothered by it, but there were a lot of people that day who were in the spoiler channel going, Christ, that was nightmare fuel. And it was, I don't want to say graphic, that might not be the right word. It wasn't bloody or anything, but it was impactful. Mm-hmm. And then you did trusts, right? So you did the first dungeon with trusts.
I did the first dungeons with trust, and Alizé is like, oh my God. She's having a conniption.
I cried.
Oh yeah, that was a serious, heavy moment to hit us that early in the story.
Because the woman who changed is one of the bosses. She's like the second boss.
She's the second boss, correct. So when Alizé sees her, kind of freaks. So moving on, I suppose you've got the quest of rejoining all the Scions as you eliminate the Light Wardens. You return to Yulmore, finding out more about Vautry. And do you want to talk about the Vautry angle of all of this? I guess it can lead into the Emmett Selleck situation. But you got a big fat man who's ruling Yulmore, and it's a mystery of how this guy can handle what's happening here with all the Sin Eaters and how they're so... He
can apparently command Sin Eaters, and I'm like, what the fuck's up with that? Right?
Yeah, it doesn't make sense.
Yulmore society is terrifying. Basically, you have this rich city, and everyone's just basically eating and drinking and making merry till the world ends. And then you have all the people on the outside hoping to get in. So to get in, you basically have to have a skill or something. And then they bring you in, and they you are now a servant for someone else, and hopefully your skill keeps you, so they don't throw you out. Keeps you employed. So that little songstress who loses her voice, have you heard the theories on that?
That she is a boss, isn't she?
That she's like one of the bosses from somewhere. All of
her attacks are music based, right?
She's a singer. She's a little aura girl, like young woman. Looks like small to me, but she loses her voice, and you do this quest. How do I get my voice back, and whatever? And then her Patreon is like, oh, well, if you can't sing anymore, we'll just ask that you get what is the word they used?
I don't know. It was something like elevated or
You'll
ascended.
get elevated,
or something.
yeah. You get ascended. We're going to ask you to be ascended. So basically, Yulmore is just like using people for fuel for sin eaters, and then using sin eaters. They're basically it's people. It's Soylent Green. They're like
Soylent
using
Green.
sin eaters in the food and kind of keeping everyone under this hypnotic spell, right?
Right.
Yeah, it's twisted and fucked up. I really loved how Alphino was like, he used to like lose his temper, and now he's the one in that one cutscene holding you back. Well, you just want to go and stab Lord whatever, and he's like, no. I felt like it was.
He had his nice little snide comments too. Like
yeah.
He had some really sharp comments. So yeah. So we have that whole Yulmore thing, but that really starts to conclude, because we're Emmett Selk repeatedly appears and follows us and claims, I am only an observer. I am only the observer throughout.
And he tells us things, and he reassures us that he's never lied to us.
Yeah.
And he's got some of the best scenes. I thought he was at the end of Stormblood, when they started showing him, I thought he was a fucking clown, and I was rolling my eyes.
He was Kefka light.
Oh, I'm like, what the fuck is this guy even? When he first showed up in Shadowbringers, I rolled my eyes. You can probably hear my
too.
I'm like, really?
I was mad.
Really? I was mad. I'm like, what the fuck, guys?
I said audibly, what the fuck, when he showed up.
And even when he came back in another cutscene, I'm like, oh, this guy again.
It pulls you out of it, right? Because you're like totally team Crystal Exarch at this point. Like you've tested the Crystal Exarch. He's partied with you if you did the trust. You're like, you know what? This guy's cool. Is he Gratia or not? We don't know.
He's legit. How did the Crystal Tower get here?
Yeah.
Why is
So it's
he
like, I'm on
here?
board. I'm good with it. I'm
with
good with it.
you.
So, like,
Yeah.
you're invested, you're sold, you're building the Scion party back together, it's feeling good, and then fuckface shows up. You're like, God.
I'm like, what the hell does this asshole want?
He's in the poster. I should have expected it, but I didn't
Ruby,
want it
that
to
was one of
happen.
my questions. I think if you go back a few episodes of this podcast, when they first showed us the poster, I'm like, why is what was his name?
Emmett Selk. Well, Solus.
Solus. I'm like, why the fuck is Solus here? I understand, which is part of why I thought this was going to be so much. Listeners, this is not a Garlean patch. This is not a Garlean.
Not even close.
Not even close. Basically, everything happens on the first. They give you a couple of, side flashes.
Right.
Of, meanwhile, Estinian is with Gaius, and they're doing some shit on the source, and it's kind of cool. And then, not Xenos is there, and then Xenos is there. I mean, I kind of like the fact that we didn't go back and have to experience that stuff. I think they dodged the fucking bullet that made me so mad in Stormblood, where it's like, well, you do a little bit over here, and then you do a little bit over there, and it didn't, I understand the in-game reasons for it, and I understand the lore reasons for it, but it didn't feel good. This felt much better.
I think that they heard us loud and clear on that part, and that's why they did it this way. We said it last week. It's jarring to go from the first back to the source.
It's very weird.
So to think that you would have to do partial Garlemald or wherever they would have sent us,
dealing with the war would not have been
a good cohesive story. This story flew throughout, and this is one thing I'll say again and again and again, is that with the trust system, this felt like a complete Final Fantasy game. A complete one-player Final Fantasy experience. If you didn't have to do the 8-man fights, which were fine anyway, I don't have an issue with it, but it felt like a cohesive Final Fantasy experience to the tune that people are saying it is one of the best Final Fantasies ever written.
People are saying this is not only the best Final Fantasy XIV expansion, they're saying it's the best MMO expansion. On top of that, they're saying this expansion is the best Final Fantasy game ever. Now, people's views might vary, but I'm like, they hit
it's top
lot.
5, man. It's up there.
It's up there.
Yeah. Well, and we're not even halfway through talking about the story, let alone. So where are we at? We Go on.
Okay, so you start in Lakeland, right? You go to Crystarium, you figure that shit out, and they send you to Ilmeg, and the Fae folk. Oh my god, guys, Faeol is the best. Faeol is so cool.
Let's talk about Faeol. She's amazing.
Faeol herself or himself, we don't know.
They self.
She referred to herself as she one time, but I don't care. They don't look like they're either sex to me, so whatever. And then I was so moved by, even like I was doing gathering stuff in that zone. There's like those guys those shrubs that look like people are people.
Oh, okay. So thanks for flashing me back to this, because there were some creepy, scary scenes in Fairyland. Fairyland is amazing. I did every quest that was out there, but there is some scary shit because they're borderline insane.
They're children. They're bored children.
Yes, that's really it. They're bored children that they don't know the extent of the damage that they do, and they think it's funny.
Cruelty. They don't understand what they've done.
Right. And so the scene the next gut-wrenching, like, oh my god scene was when Ranjit and company storm the Fairylands, and they do the counterattack. And so all the Fae folk are out there. You've got the Numu, which were amazing, the Amaro, which were amazing, the Fwath, which are crazy, and the Pixies, the fairies, and they were insane. So you've got soldiers that are being turned into leaf men right before your eyes. It is freaky, it is scary, and then their little Octorok from The Legend of Zelda looking faces, like their O faces on those bushes, it completely like changed it, because you're going into the zone going, what are these cute little bushes? And then they're not cute little bushes.
I did really enjoy the whole, go ahead and play with those invaders.
Uh-huh.
And then you fight Tanya. That's next in the storyline, and I thought that was the dungeon. The dungeon before it is kind of disturbing too, right? The drowned.
Yes, oh yeah, the Fwath are freaky.
Yeah, they're the spirits of drowned people or something.
Yep.
And they want to drown you. It's just like, wow, everything here is trying to kill me. It's beautiful, but everything. I feel like Urian J should have maybe warned me more, right?
Yeah, there you go.
Where was my, oh, by the way, everything here is going to try to kill you. I mean, I liked that dungeon. I thought that was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I don't think I've done that one Trust yet, because I didn't do Trusts at all till I'd already finished the entire storyline. So I have to like run the first dungeon like 4 more times or 6 more times or some shit till I could actually move on to the next dungeon. But anyway, so you have to do some quests and get all these items so that you can then go fight Titania, which storyline-wise I thought was fun and interesting, and she's also dark and twisted, the king.
Yes.
I love the fight when you're doing it, and she's right after you pull. I don't know if it's in the normal mode, I know it's in the extreme mode, and my cat complaining about it. But she's like, stay and play or whatever, because the night is bright and you can sleep when you're dead.
You can sleep when you're dead.
Oh my god, yes, you can. I thought it was a fun and interesting fight. The EX was fun too.
Very Shakespearean.
Very Shakespearean.
The enemy names, everything.
Everything, yeah. You have Puck and you have, I don't remember all the names, but yeah, it's...
Midsummer's Night is the
Midsummer's
change.
Night's Dream.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great
she
stuff.
gets bored of being in the castle, and she summons the ads, and they're all three. Well, I actually really loved it, because first you just fight 3 like small normal ads, and then she's like grow or whatever after you kill them. It's kind of the transition, and then they show up. They're 3 giant fucking trees on 3 sides of, they're like separate on 3 sides.
Yep.
Right? I really liked that fight. And I thought it was fun and interesting. I love the music. I love the music even more, though, when I listen to it in my car or whatever.
Yeah.
But because I think when I'm playing the battle, I can't concentrate on the music. It fact, I a lot of times turn the background music way down.
It's tough. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you got fa la 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 la.
I'm Essie. I need y'all to post the actual lyrics to that because I can make up some of the words, but I can't make out all the words. So that's like the first 2 dungeons.
Yeah, and one thing I want to mention about the king's lore, as far as the king killed a light warden, but the only person who can kill a light warden and make it through, supposedly, is the warrior of light, your main character. So when somebody else
Our
kills
blessing of light protects us.
That's correct. But when anybody else kills a light warden, they may be strong enough to kill it, but the power of that light warden will overtake them and turn them into the next light warden. So you're fighting what would be a good king, but that has been changed to a light warden. So they're somewhat contained, because I think there's an understanding of what they are. They're contained within the castle, but still corrupted.
That one specifically, I think, is completely contained. I think they're locked in the castle, and that is what they are. I don't think they're reach. I think maybe that's part of why that zone is more about mischief than it's about, sin eaters.
Right.
So I kind of wondered about that. Where do you go after that?
You go to Lahi.
You go to the Great Wood. I love that song, by the way. It is jarring coming out of something and hearing that, but no, I love it. I love that song. I like everything about it. I like the Protectors of the Wood. I like the parts where, there's ruins nearby and the 2 blue-haired sisters, summon up elementals to do something. I don't know. That dungeon, I don't remember. Yeah, I remember it. It was fun and interesting.
Yeah, this was I'm trying to think. This was the one that was more Karn-like, I guess. It was like Stone Temple kind of stuff. I can hear the music in my head.
Quintana Ravel. So that's right. That's it. It's very red stone and dark, and I think that's the one that has like the zappy things coming across. I don't know. Yeah,
I had a good time in the zone. I had no issues. I loved the music. I thought it flowed well. I liked, I felt like I was in South Shroud. I kept thinking, like, is this analog to South Shroud?
Are there elementals here?
Sure.
Where are the Mughals?
Right.
Where are the Mughals?
I don't know. They are around.
We've seen Mughals in promotional stuff. I'm trying to remember if we've seen
There was
Mughals
one time
I
saw a Moogle, and that was when I accepted the final hunt, and Nutsy, the actual Moogle from Final Fantasy Tactics Advance, who the clan is named after. Thank you for the shout out.
I knew that from 12, because I just rebought 12, right?
Right. So yes. But that's the only one I saw. They have blue palms, but that's the only
purple palms. Weren't they purpley? Were they blue?
It was blue on my screen.
Oh, it was blue. Okay.
So that's the most I've seen out of them. There was something I wanted to say though about the Great Wood.
You mean other than the Great Serpent of Ronka?
Well, who could forget the Great Serpent of Ronka?
I loved and it was sad when that one NPC died, but then they had the whole funeral with the stone.
Oh, that was how beautiful they tie these things into the story together. And
it came back later. I had no concept that was going to come back later.
No, not at all. But that how well this story was written, that the stone that represented a life would be brought back to be used as crystals full of aether.
Later,
to power the giant golem that allowed you to get to the 79 dungeon, to Mount Golg. Incredible storytelling there. So I enjoyed the forest for what it was. It was about religious factions as well, and you also got a taste of Y'shtola as a leader here, but also as the first voice that is anti-Crystal Exarch that you hear in the story from one of those that you care about. Emmett Selk might have been like, "Who is this Crystal Exarch that you blindly follow?" But this is the first time that somebody that you actually care about is like, I don't trust him. He knows too much.
What are his motivations?
Right.
Because that comes back later. What are his motivations and why something? And I knew well, it might have been a little further on. I knew there was something up between, you catch L'Shtola and Urianger talking about you later, and it's like, oh.
And it was complex, because it's not just that, hey, the Warrior of Light may be experiencing light aether sickness and could potentially turn. We can't say the Blessing of Light is going to save his life through 5 Light Wardens, right? You've got that discussion, but the other discussion is, Urianger, are you telling the fucking truth? Or are you lying about what's going on?
Well, here's the thing. I was unsurprised by the plot twist where Urianger may not have been telling you the whole story.
We've seen him do this twice before.
Yeah, we've seen that before. I've come to expect it from him. I do believe still his heart's in the right place and he means the best. We saw it again at the end of Eden, for spoilers, by the way.
Yeah.
He's like, here's this information, but, don't share it.
Right.
People yet, because it be dangerous. So that was cool. Was the Quintana Ravel, was that the dungeon that had where you had to like sneak around, or was it the solo? Oh, it might have been the solo thing where there was puzzles. You had to sneak around and notice which owl statue was facing the other way. Right?
Yeah,
do you remember that?
Yeah.
That's going back, right? I don't remember. I like binged this game for 4 days when the patch came out, so
they did pepper in a lot of these solo quests, and we're skipping over a lot of stuff like that, mainly because I forget, but there were a lot of little peppered in portions where you played as other stuff. There were portions where you played as other people.
Yep.
There were times that you played as other characters, and you got to use, Ronka and Fire and things of that nature.
So, Holmester Switch, Dawn Meg, the Quintana Revel, Melka's Well, I can't remember why we were there or what we needed from it. Was that to get the Soul Stone or whatever for that, so you could push the cart? Was that what it was about?
Yeah, I think that one had to do with the heart of the...
heart for the... I want to say Mammoth, but it's not. It's the...
No, I can't think of what it is either. Oh, I know, because it's Talos. Because I have the game Talos Principle, and the game's awesome. Yes.
So Monk Gulg, before you get to Monk Gulg, so between the level 77 and the 79 dungeon, the storyline moves on, and basically you go and like fuck up Yulmore, right?
Yeah.
Isn't that where you go raid Yulmore and you're like, be free, and Lord What's His Face like flies off or whatever.
Yeah, you scare the shit out of him, and he escapes. Have we? Okay, yeah, because we've gone through Armorang. That was the dungeon we just did, and so now we're like, okay, we've got a mountain that has broke the tip off.
It's floating in the air.
And there's a palace up here. Something's going on. How do we get there? And they say, well, we can't fly. There's tons of Sin Eaters flying around. And, I mean, obviously you can't walk or teleport. What do we do? Mm-hmm. And they have the idea, what if... Go ahead.
Well, and it's surrounded by Sin Eaters. That's the whole story, right?
Yes.
You can't fly there. We were going to, like, try to use Yulmar's airships, and that's shown in a cool cutscene why that doesn't work. And they're like, you can't climb the mountain because you won't be able to defend yourself, and you can't teleport up there. So what are we going to do? And this is when some people didn't like it. I was cheering. Where basically all the people for the last 9 levels showed up to help you, right? All the, you've freed Yulmore. I love what's his name and his wife.
Yeah.
He turned out to be like a stone worker that knew about Taloses, and all the other people from all the other places showed up to help you and support you. And,
and he was really like the analog to Sid Garland, right? Mm-hmm. Like he was
Kinda,
the Deadless Stoneworks is the Ironworks, so it is, but he had a completely different personality instead of being, strong personality. He was so insecure. You had the little cutscene where you're having to work him through his fears and anxiety.
You have to like rally him.
Yeah,
through it. Yeah,
it's insane. And so you finally get him on board. And this is the only part of the story that I felt like it jumped the shark a little bit. Is how the fuck did they get this robot built so quickly in such a short period of time? I realize it's not built with metal. It's just kind of the stones.
I feel like they should have given you another dungeon in here, or had you do something else, something that would have shown the passage of time. Because I was kind of with you that everyone showed up to help you, but then it was just like suddenly...
No long
The robots are
cutscene,
ready.
no something that shows the passage of time. Give me a montage. Something, an 80s
Yeah,
montage.
a montage, maybe with a side track. I love his wife, by the way.
Yes.
She's a huge fat kitty. I think they make one not even mean fat joke. But she is so supportive and loving to her husband. And he loves her so much. It's just adorable.
Yeah.
But anyway, you eventually do build the giant Talos, and it grabs Mount Gulg, and that dungeon, oh my god, it's so pretty. They showed it to us in patch notes, I think. It's the Golden City with a lot of greenery and whatever, and you fight a lot of Sin Eaters. I thought all the bosses there were cool. You do have the Rubik's Cube boss, which I love, by the way.
Yeah, that one's cool.
Every time I went in there was someone new, they're like, are we fighting a Rubik's Cube? And I'm like, yes. Yes, we are. I don't know. I thought it was just a well-designed one. It didn't show you everything explicitly, but if you could, think on your feet, you figured it out really fast. And that's the dungeon, I think, where the last boss in Mount Gulg is that female, and I think that's the one where all of her abilities are musical. I haven't gone back there in a while. And that's the one where people are assuming that it's that singer who lost her voice and was ascended. Mm-hmm. So that was cool. And then at the top is, what's his name?
Valtteri.
And then he transforms into Innocence. And I don't know why that surprised me, but it did.
Yeah, and then we find out the truth about Valtteri himself is that he's part man, part sin eater. Concocted as such in the womb as a contingency plan for the failed attempt of the Asians to destroy the First, or to meld the First with the Source. So this was Emmett Selk's plan by making a half man, half sin eater creation that he would just take the rest of the population into the light with him and be done with it. And basically you have a child who's being told that he's the savior.
You're a god. Yeah.
Of the world. And so Valtteri is fed on lies as well as meal.
I half felt sorry for him. Even in the innocent, he turns out to be Innocence, which surprised me. I don't know why. It should have been more obvious to me, but I don't think he knew he did anything wrong. But he has no basis of comparison. He's
a spoiled child.
Told since birth, you are a god, and this is what you're going to do. And I really think he kind of, in a way, was thinking he was doing right by keeping all of this in balance, right?
Yes.
He was supporting the living people, and he was letting it work well with the Sin Eaters, and, But, I mean, he had a sadistic streak for sure.
Sure.
And he was a whiny little crybaby with tantrums, but I don't know how he could have been anything else.
But keep that in mind. And listener, keep what Yelta said in mind about he believed he was right. Mm-hmm. Wholeheartedly. Valtteri believed he was correct in all that he did. All right. So
he wasn't the bad guy. In his mind, I fully think he might have been a bit cruel and he might have been whatever, but I don't think he really thought. I think he thought he was saving people.
Right. Does anybody in Shadowbringers think they're the bad guy?
Well, most bad guys don't, and that's a good written villain.
Yeah,
they're on the right side of things. The Innocence fight was awesome. I thought it was kind of cool. It was pretty easy, and there were waves and waves of ads, which I think some people complained about. But again, I just want to reiterate, they did what I hoped, and they made it so the storyline boss had stuff in it. So he has the two phases of his fight, but then when you go farm him in the EX mode, it's just the more straightforward one. It doesn't do, it's only Innocence you fight. The ad phase is just 3 ads. It's not waves of ads and whatever. So I'm really appreciative that they're like, well, you're learning and farming this EX fight. We're not going to hold you up. And then Ruby, after defeating Innocence, I'm like, well, now what? That felt like it should have been the culmination of stuff. That should have been it.
Right, you're talking about right after Innocence, right? It made you feel like this was
Right.
the end of the story.
Well, now I'm like, well, literally in my mind, I'm like, well, I'm only level 79.
Right.
And I've defeated Innocence, but I thought there were 6 zones.
Right,
so
right.
Now what? And this story takes you so many cool places. That whole 6th zone, you have to go find the fairy version of Bismarck,
right.
which I thought was amazing and fun. So I'm already just like in wonder for going there, and you show up there, and there's like an NPC tribe there basically, and you're dealing with them, and you're examining, old buildings, and everyone's like, I don't know, man. And then I can't ever remember what the quest you do, and then you find out there's a whole city that doesn't belong down here.
It's wild. It's massive. The I don't know what the Ondu, I think Ondu, which are basically the fish guys, the Sagan, are like, we're seeing lights. The city has been turned on, whatever. And you're like, what are they talking about? And this is the city in their underwater world, which has been kind of disrupted by Bismarck and his giant bubble he's blown. There's a city that's lit, and they say, can you go look into it? Now, mind you, you're looking for something here, because after you beat Vautry, that last and final Light Warden's power goes into the Warrior of Light, and you're sick. You can't contain it.
You can't contain it, yeah.
And Emmett Selk comes out. Now, this is the next time he comes out, and no longer is he Mr. Observer here. He is taunting. In fact, he shoots the Crystal Exarch, who is there to save you. The Crystal Exarch reveals that he knew what was going to happen at this point, and reveals that he is going to take the light upon himself to save the Warrior of Light, because he's known the Warrior of Light. And this is the beginning of the reveal of who the Crystal Exarch truly is. But this plan is stopped because Emmett Selk appears, shoots the Crystal Exarch, states what his plan is. And no longer Observer. We're now in it, because the Warrior of Light is disrupting Plan B. He's disrupting the fact that he cannot get this world completely over to the light and put this plan back on track of the worlds colliding, the rejoining, right?
Yeah.
But he says, "Gay, look me up, Warrior of Light. You're about to turn into the greatest sin eater this world has ever known, and before you go on your bloodthirsty conquest that none will defeat you, come and commiserate in my lair. I'll protect you. In fact, I'll grant you protection and privacy while you change." So he invites you, and you go.
Well, he's like, you're fucked, so just come hang out with me while you
come
go
with
through
me.
it.
Of course, he wants to see you turn, because it's the culmination of his plan. And you think about it, but there's some dialogue with the Warrior of Darkness and a touching scene. This is where I teared up, because I knew there would be a connection between the Warrior of Darkness and Warrior of Light, and they really solidify this connection right after Yulmore and Mount Gulg. So,
well, we didn't talk about that at all. So the story from the beginning kind of does, events, and now you need to rest. They basically send you back to your in-room all the time in the Crystarium, and Ghost Warrior is hanging out there, and you repeatedly every few levels have this, private conversation with him. What's his name?
Ardbert.
He's like a ghost. His friends are gone. He basically wanders around and haunts the first, but he can't touch anything and no one can see him. So you can see him. So every few quests, you come back to your room and you have this touching conversation with him, and he describes stuff and he talks about stuff. And I feel, do you remember way back when the first Warrior of Darkness arc came and we're like, ugh, they resolved that too quickly and I don't understand what was going on. And apparently it was just like, you know, I wasn't satisfied by it. But knowing what I knew then, and then now having these discussions with him, you know, in between quests, you know, this becomes a major plot point in the game.
Mm-hmm. Huge. Yeah, I remember it was like that. What was it, like 3-2, 3-3, something like that?
They resolved it so fast. I'm like, I was unsatisfied.
And then you see the moon, and we've been pining for the moon ever since that happened. Thankfully, we do get to see a little culmination of what's happening.
We saw the moon again.
Yeah. So, So here we are, headed toward Emmett Selk. We see this crazy city, and we see the inhabitants, who are giants.
They're huge. They're huge. They
look like birdmen.
Well, and there's an explanation in game. So basically, they're all the same because if you're different, you are asking for envy and whatever. And
yeah,
you know. But they're huge, and as a Lalafell, they're so huge. So I was tickled. Honestly, I was super tickled when I was seeing other people's screenshots with their like ears and stuff, and I'm like, see, and they all treat you like a tiny child.
They believe you're a child.
Yeah, and there's some lore in there. There's lore that discusses why we use crystals to craft, right? That whole robe crafting part. Yeah, it turns out, you know, Emmett Selk's people were creators. They basically existed and could create anything they could think of. And Emmett Selk created this giant city that was basically an echo of history, an echo of the past.
Right.
And you actually do quests for these memories, basically. It's kind of... It's just jaw-dropping when you're doing it. And there is one who apparently knows what he or she is. They know, they're like... They're aware that they're just a shade. And they sit by you and talk to you while you're waiting at the DMV, which is what everybody calls it.
Yes.
So, and you know, they say something, which brings me back to an earlier thing where Emmett Selk is saying some offhand comment, and he's like, but don't you remember? And I'm like, I almost went to Google because I'm like, I don't remember. It was all just like foreshadowing. Apparently, you know, this what are they called even? They're not Ascians at that point. Ascians.
No, they're Amarosians. Something to that nature.
So the one that's self-aware is like, you know, they recognize you at some level. Mm-hmm. And that was really weird. And they're like, oh, that's a kind of a fitting thing to happen to her. It probably says him if you're playing a male. Mm-hmm. But, you know, I'm like, well, what the fuck am I at that point?
You're right.
How many times in this game, in the last 6 years, have you done something and someone says, what are you?
Right.
So that's really kind of where you're like, well, what the fuck am I?
Yeah, that's the final what the fuck. I think, honestly, of this expansion, it's the kind of the final what the fuck. But before we get to that what the fuck, we've got a complete what the fuck situation going on in this city. So it's an echo of the past, but what happened? And we did find during Ishtola's portion of the adventure in the Great Wood, and just after, is you find out more about Zodiark and Hydaelyn and how they're two primals. And the story gets really foretold here. And this is kind of the meat of the story, and we can spend forever on this or as little time, but I think this is where you get to the real meat of what's going on behind the scenes. That 80% of what we know about Zodiark and Hydaelyn is that basically this world was doomed from within, and Amarat was failing. Dooms were happening, and you experience this through the 80 dungeon. Calamities that really culminate with a final calamity, and to avert this calamity,
they had to summon a primal. They summoned
Zodiark.
Zodiark.
Yeah, to just be like, fix this shit for us, dude.
Stop it. Now, whether this is a problem of their own making, that's where this gets
I'm still of two minds of
philosophical.
That. Right. So part of it kind of is described like, well, something happened and people had fear, and then with their fear, they basically used creation magics that made their nightmares. Right. So that's part of it. But then it's like, well, what? I don't think it's really answered completely. But something freaked them out, and then all hell broke loose.
I am on the belief, and I'm waiting for the lore gods to come out. There's probably videos even now, but I haven't researched. I'm on the impression that the world was unraveling due to overusage of the creation magic. Somehow there was an unwinding of the natural laws of the world, and that small calamities were happening across the planet, but their apathy with whatever the plight is of any other part of the world, those in Amarot or in that main city didn't care. They discussed this through the story, through some of these quests, that there's a problem over here. Well, let's discuss it. Let's debate about it. They don't act, they debate.
I don't think they've ever had adversity before. That's really how I felt about it. I felt like they came into being, and they were whole, and they were a community, and I think nothing bad happened to them.
Sure.
And then something bad happened to them, and they're like, ooh, interesting, we'll study this. And
right,
like,
instead of really solving an issue, And I do think if there were issues with creation magic, they knew nothing other than the continued use of creation magic to counter the problem, like a fight fire with fire sort of situation. That was not doing them any favors. That plus, I think, the fear aspect, because you do find that these dooms that you fight are the fears of Amarot that are made manifest through rogue creation magic. They couldn't control themselves, whether it's partially the fabric of nature unraveling or just their overactive imaginations. But there's something that had to stop it, right? So these 14, right? These 14 individuals, and maybe really 13, because one possibly walked away.
It started with 13, it sounds like, and they added a 14th, and then they summoned Zodiark, and then they made sacrifices, right? So they had to sacrifice half the population voluntarily sacrifice themselves to stabilize whatever.
And it does.
But that apparently, then they decided to sacrifice half again to repop. Well, I think what happened is they sacrificed people, and then they wanted to undo the sacrifice, and Zodiac would let them do that, but they had to sacrifice other lives. I think is what's happened, right?
Yeah, so, it's basically you've created a blood god, and you have to continue to sacrifice to the blood god to get anything done. But you haven't really. You may have solved that calamity issue, but it said even after the calamity, plants were wilting, crops wouldn't grow, things were still wrong.
Yeah, life was. They fixed the immediate problem, but they didn't actually, fix global change or whatever.
Right. So they sacrificed the first time, were privy to sacrifice a second time, which made others think something's wrong.
This is not right. This isn't working.
For the first time, you have a faction, a sundering, if you will, of Amarot society. And so now half of the population want a different solution. And that half wants Hydaelyn. Their choice is to make something more powerful to counter, to balance.
Yeah. They wanted the light to the dark.
The light to the dark. And so to have that, though, did they not also have to sacrifice half of themselves? So that half had to sacrifice.
Well, I think there was some sacrifice. I've heard some discussion on what that sacrifice meant. But the people who were sacrificed originally to Zodiac sounded like they were voluntary anyway.
Right. And I think there were. I don't think anybody was voluntold other than when they started factioning. I think once that half of the population broke, then half of those two halves committed suicide or sacrificed themselves over to their god, which brings them both back up again for their final showdown. So you have decimated multiple times. That's not the right word, but you have fractioned your population multiple times to summon gods, and that in turn creates the sundering, which separates the source into 14 visions, and you have the issue that the Ascians have today. So only 3 survived, or were not sundered, and those 3 are Emmett, Selk, La Habrea, and Elidibus. And so those are your core 3 that are trying to solve the plan. In fact, I went back and I researched La Habrea today, and his dialogue fits throughout. He's talking in 2.0 about ending this fake world and bringing his god back and all of the above. And it's been written on the wall for a long time, but now we're finally putting all the pieces together.
Well, and you have to remember that their plan is to cause calamities.
Right.
To make the world crash back into the source, right? So every time a calamity happens, all of these souls that were split into, is it 14 pieces?
Yeah.
Every 12,000 years ago, everything was split into 14 pieces. That's all animals, all plants, all people, all souls were split into 14 things.
None the wiser. It's almost like you woke up and you're like, part of myself seems missing, but there's 14 identical worlds. You just feel a little different when you woke up that morning.
So all of the calamities we've had on the source are other realities being basically pushed their aether, too much water, too much wind. The World of Darkness is special. That one is my understanding that they did it too fast.
It's a failed experiment.
And it never actually returned darkness to the source. It basically just collapsed. I think it's still there. But,
yeah, I don't know the full plan, but I feel like there's a timing issue or something. Like, you have to put enough turmoil on the source for them to have a pull for the aether, and you over-aspect one of the shards, and it creates that connection that melds the two. So they got to be fucking around on the source as well.
Well, they have to fuck around on the source, but I feel like it has more to do with the shard has to be tipped the scales. I think it has to be overwhelmed with an element, and then I think it has to be to the point where they can basically, pop a bubble and it goes flooding back to the source. Mm-hmm. That's really how I envisioned it when he was talking about it. But, yeah, so how many calamities have we had? Several of them worked. The one with the World of Darkness, was that the 13th shard?
The World of Dark, that's the 13th shard. That one did not work. We've had 7, but I don't know if they consider the sundering as the first calamity.
No, I don't think so. I think the calamities are only when they crash back together. So the Ascians' plan is we do all these sunderings, we make all the 13 crash back into the source, and then all of us will be whole again. Mm-hmm. And this is where we have a difference of opinion with Emmett Selk, and some of us are kind of like, I kind of get it. Emmett Selk doesn't feel like anyone who is a part of the shard who hasn't collapsed back into their real full person, they're not real life, right? Mm-hmm. That's really what's, to me, so deep about this is his plan, the Ascians' plan is we need to fix this. And the rest of us are like, well, we're not broken, we're alive. And they're like, no, you don't even know. I feel like I'm a parent, and you tell a 14-year-old that it doesn't really matter that some boy doesn't like her in high school, because it's not going to matter later.
Right.
None of this matters. And that's where I feel like Emmett Selk is like a parent who's like, but you don't understand. You're not even living a real life today. If you let me do my shit, I will make you whole. I will make everyone whole. But then also the Ascians' plan is to then sacrifice the living beings to basically let Zodiac bring their friends back.
Yeah,
so
and
that's what they want.
That's the ultimate plan. It ain't really like, I really want to bring all the people back together to make that. No, he wants to bring his people back together. You all are just fractals. Fuel. You're fuel. Yeah. That's exactly it. You are fuel for the summoning of their god. He's tempered.
Blood for the blood god. I mean, Zodiac's like, yeah, I'll bring all your friends back if you... And they've been playing the fucking long game. Think about it. That's what makes me so sad for MXL, is like, how many thousands of years, how many hundreds of lifetimes, where all he really wants is his friends back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So here we have another villain, quote unquote. People would argue he's not. Who is doing something out of what he believes is a nobility or a love for his people.
Love. It's his people. I think, and nothing, everything that's been sundered, all the shards are not real, right?
Right. This
He's
false
like,
star.
If you just let me fix you.
Right. Right.
Yeah. And
so
it's for love of his people, and that's the writing of this whole entire expansion has been. Everything everyone does is out of friendship and love, and I don't know. Yeah,
and just to divert a little bit there, we talked about this before the podcast started, and many have pointed this out, that the names of your Light Wardens are all names of love in Greek, and the virtues, the names of those role quests, the enemies you fight are the 4 virtues from Greek literature. So you've got a lot of virtue signaling. Kidding. But you have a lot of love. Love is the theme to this. I believe Ardbert and the Warriors of Darkness, they believed what they were doing was right to the bitter end, until the flood of light came. People had good intentions every way through, whether they're right or wrong. I guess that's a philosopher's or some moralist's game to play. We're not going to discuss that here, but it's interesting to see. I read a lot of Reddit comments that were Team Emmett Selk, and no, I don't mean thirsty for his hotness.
there's a lot of thirst.
I don't understand.
I don't know.
I don't get it, or the thirst for Xenos. He does
that one. I don't get. I'm like, he just wants to kick your ass. Why would you want to cuddle with
those
that?
Betty Davis eyes or whatever he's got? Those sleepy eyes. This just doesn't turn me on. But
too greasy.
Yeah. So here we are. So you get to have a final showdown with Emmett Selk. He's sick of the whole thing. You approach him in his domain. You go through Amarat. You see what the calamities are, and he tells you the full story. And he's like, enough. I'm going to kick your ass. So he becomes Hades, and we fight Hades, and we win. Hopefully we win, or it's the end of your story. And he has a line in this, and this is the next gut-wrenching thing. He says, remember me and remember my people. If there's anything from this, remember we lived. And he's gone, as far as we know. It's sad. It really is sad, because you have a enemy with true motivations, and them believing that they're good. But
well, even before that is one of my favorite lines. I have to find it. When you're before Hades comes out, you're overwhelmed with the light you've absorbed, and you're basically dying.
Yeah.
What does he say? If you could take one more step, could you do it? Ardbert says. And he basically combines with you at that point. You're now one. You're now one more soul, less broken than everyone else.
Yes.
What does he say? If you could take one more step, could you do it?
Would you? Yeah, it's something like, if you could take one more step.
Tell me, if you had the strength to take one more step, could you save the world? And he basically sacrifices his even spiritual, form.
And when he holds out that axe,
power you. Oh my God.
That's the tearjerker. That's when water falls. Yeah. So Ardbert gives you his axe, and is it before or after when Emmett Selk sees you and is like, no?
Oh no, it's after that.
Okay.
I want to talk about that again too, because Emmett Selk first asks you, or don't you remember? And then you talk to whatever her name is, she's the Asian, not Asian, whatever, that is self-aware, and she's like, oh, that's a fitting fate for her soul, and then you're right at the end there, and you're, basically, having a shouting match with Emmett Selk, and he looks back at you. He doesn't see you. He sees one of them. He sees one of his people. So you're very obviously a splinter of one of them. And he at that point recognizes your soul.
Yes. He sees just having 2 of the 14 parts of the soul put together.
Well, no, it's more than that, because I think the theory is all the calamities that happened, we've already...
Oh, have incorporated 6 or 7
out of 8. We're like
okay.
7 or 8 or something at this point.
So each of the calamities really makes us stronger in that sense. Although we were probably not born till after the 5th or the 6th.
But we don't know don't know who we are, right? The Warrior of Light has never. They've woken up on a carriage, or they, right? So if you go back to even the 1.0 stories, you don't know who the fuck you are.
It's true.
You don't know where you came from. Anyway, so yeah, you fight Emmett Selk as Hades. You beat his ass. It's pretty fun. Where the lore actually says where the other 7 people come to do the fight. The Crystal Exarch summons you from beyond the void. The rest of them from beyond the void, and that fight's fun as hell too. So after you do that Amara dungeon, and you do that cutscene, and the Shadowbringers song shows up, did you just about cry?
Yeah, so I did and I didn't. And this is one thing that I allowed my mind, my imagination to go a wrong direction. And it's because I had listened to the music very closely. I thought that the interpretation of the lyrics of the female vocalist talking about, I can't think of the lyrics right now, but she sings a song and then she sings it again and it's louder, and it's the Stand Tall song, right? There's a line in there about, this time will make amends, where the previous lyric was, in time will seek amends. And I was hoping that the Warrior of Darkness, I was hoping Ardbert was going to get to either be brought back to life or another chance, or to start their life over again, or something like that. Now, mind you, being rejoined to having your soul rejoined is a good thing too. But I was thinking it was going to go a different direction than that. So I was a little disappointed that they didn't live, but they kind of did, because they had their own happy cutscene at the end. And again, he's a part of you, right? So he lives on.
Oh yeah, they be a part of us now. So that pretty much wraps it up, except for you win the game and you go back to the Crystarium and you talk to the Crystal Exarch, and I love when you get to call him by name. I love it later when you finish the storyline and go back and show him the minion.
Yes.
Have you done that?
Show him the minion? No, I haven't done that.
Yeah, well, you don't have to have the minion out. If after you finish the storyline, go back into the Crystarium, or back into the Crystal Tower, and interact with him and show him the minion. It's just fucking adorable.
Wow, I'm gonna do that.
And it's a text. You don't actually have to have the minion out, so.
That's fantastic.
Oh, and that's not even it. We have 2 more dungeons after that. The Academia Anyer. That basically talks about, so the city that exists in an echo, a memory, apparently can still affect the outside world. And you have to go in there and put down some bad things. That one's okay. I like that alright. Oh, speaking of that zone, so there is the one NPC you have to visit, and if you haven't done a role quest all the way through, you have to go do a role quest all the way through. Male NPC living on his own in an airlock underwater. Who did he remind you of?
Oh, yeah.
Right? You have to do the role quest. That's like... Okay, so first of all, I really appreciate that this game didn't pull any of that, like, alternate reality versions of whoever. People kept being like, oh, we're gonna see Harushafant again. And I'm like, bitch, that stuff split 12,000 years ago, you're not gonna.
He's not there.
But the only NPC that really reminds you of someone on the source is this NPC. I think he's gonna probably have something to do with the probably relic weapons, right? So
his name was like Geralt something. It wasn't
not
Geralt,
but
it was something. Yeah, but it was something.
He's similar, but not the same guy.
Got the long hair. That is different.
Yeah. So
he wasn't drinking. I thought we might bring him a drink,
I'm
though.
like, let me bring you a beer.
Well, wasn't there one that was similar to Rowena too? I think her name was something close to it. I thought there was a girl that was similar to Rowena. Yeah, it's funny. They did some of that at Liberty, but they didn't do too much of it, right? So there wasn't.
If they had overdone it, I would have been crabby. I'm like, according to your lore, the shit broke off 12,000 years ago.
It'd be eye rolling.
That's the other thing people are. Yeah. Well, and that's the other thing people are talking about as, in some of these different zones, there are mobs where you're like, oh my god, this stuff is, native to the first. And I'm like, no. And they talk about in the story, the world split off 12,000 years ago. Basically, evolution had happened. The mobs existed.
Yes.
So what really happened is the mobs are existent in either both worlds or all the worlds, or, they talked about, well, why... So you go back to the cave paintings where they talked about the Hydaelyn and... my brain. Zodiac being the original two primals, and why don't these cave paintings exist on the source? And it's like, because the calamities happen to the source. Every time a shard blinks out of existence, there's a calamity on the source, or maybe we haven't dug down that deep somewhere or whatever.
How come Tempest doesn't exist and there's no city of Ascians on the source? Well, because it's been crashed into 7 different times, and things get destroyed. They say that.
And it might be there. It might just be so far deep we've never seen it.
Right.
We couldn't swim. Do you remember? We couldn't swim originally on the source.
That's true.
Think about that for a minute. That's, I don't know. So I thought that was very interesting. Mm-hmm. Though, everything existed on all 14 worlds when it was broken apart.
Right. Identical. You're waking up 14 times out of your same bed on the day that happened, yawning, going, I feel odd today. Think of an echo of 14 voices. Mm-hmm. I feel odd today. And then one of you takes a shit, the other makes breakfast, the other falls and breaks their head and dies, whatever. But you've got 14 different realities going on in different evolutions.
12,000 years ago. That's what people forget. They're like, but how are you the same slice of soul? I'm a girl and Aardvark's a boy. And it's like, well, no, it's 14,000 years ago that shit happened. The soul apparently flowed through a different family line. I don't know.
And I think that there's something to that, too. I think that there's going to be some deeper lore about who we are. Mm-hmm. And
they have to explain that more for sure.
I think it's going to come back to we were, on the council or something that we were.
Most people think we are the 14th on the council member. Split off to summon Hydaelyn.
That's right.
That's where we have the blessing of light.
Yeah. So we're going to get more of that. But
I hope so. I really hope so.
I don't know how much more I want to talk about Shadowbringers. Is there any other topic before maybe we switch?
I want to mention one thing that kind of has to do with Eden, but it has to do with Shadowbringers. If you do Eden, spoilers, but at the very end, the Scions are like, well, eventually we're going to have to go back to the source.
Right.
right? So they know.
They know.
I do.
We're hopeful,
let's
anyway.
The twinning. Let's talk about the twinning for a minute. The dungeon.
Oh, yes.
Best dungeon, please. Yeah. So the twinning has like this unauspicious quest that you go there. They're like, oh, some shit's going crazy in the Crystal Tower on the first. You go in there and all of a sudden you are hit with what music? Oh my fucking god. I'm like, this is like...
Yeah, you hear Omega music mixed in
like
with the
Omega
Crystal Tower
with
music.
Crystal Tower music, and I'm like, you're in the Crystal Tower, and there, you know, the place you usually, when you're on that floor of the Crystal Tower, you usually run here and here. That's blocked off, so, and it looks different, and we're like, what are all these boxes? And this looks like, Ironworks.
Yeah.
Storage containers. So I'm like, I don't understand.
Well, and it was their contingency plan, right? Because the eighth calamity did happen in Graatia's universe, the Crystal Exarch, if you will. Mm-hmm. And after that eighth calamity, Sid Garland survived and rallied the Ironworks troops, those that survived, and they made a plan to investigate the Crystal Tower and to hopefully use the secrets to do something to solve the problem. And time was the issue, to send it through time and space, and they woke up Graatia when they got in, and it took many years. It was like, what, hundreds of years? 300 years? Something.
It's my understanding that the calamity happened, they decided they had to unmake it.
Yes.
Right? So I don't feel like they woke up, according to one of those logs, they didn't wake up Graatia then. They researched Alexander for time travel. They researched Omega for dimensional travel. Mm-hmm. They looked into the Crystal Tower for its history and power and whatever. And Graatia was asleep in the Crystal Tower at this point. Mm-hmm. And they came up with a plan. The plan was time and dimensional travel. So Graatia was asleep in the Crystal Tower. They basically used time and dimensional magic to bring him back and put it where it is right now in game today, on the first at the Crystarium. It just appeared one day. And then Graatia woke up, and he has spent 100 years trying to figure out what the fuck to do. And some of that is summon scions and try to find the Warrior of Light.
Yeah.
And make shit happen. But there is some stuff still in the Crystal Tower that old experiments, I don't know. Most of it didn't really hit me other than the music until I hit that last boss. You get in that last room and there's the different viewports. Mm-hmm. And I watched the cutscene and I went in and the music changed and I'm like, are we in Alexander? What the fuck?
Yeah.
And then, you look at the different viewports and I'm like, well, that's from the Omega raid, or that's from the Crystal Tower raid, or that's from Alexander or whatever. And I'm like, I have no idea what's going on. And then you fight something that's not Alexander. He's called what?
Tycoon.
Tycoon. So you fight the Tycoon, which has the Ironworks label emblazoned on its side, right? And so I'm like, okay, so they had to experiment with some shit to make this whole time travel thing work. And it's apparently gone, crazy. So we have to go deal with it. I loved the fact that it was that fight, that music, but different. It was really fun and really cool to me. A little bit confusing, right? So I know the safe spaces to stand on when, Alexander's doing his shit. And then it's like, oh, no, this isn't Alexander. This is the tyrant. I'm like, oh, fuck.
Not near as bad as Alexander was.
No. Well, Alexander was a raid. This was a dungeon. But I watched, Ruby, I never go watch other people's experiences I never rewatch cutscenes. I watched everything from Amarout over to the end again. I never watch other people's reaction videos. I watched, was it Ethes?
The
lower guy. No,
Ethis.
Yeah, Ethis. So I watched his, blind run in there and reaction video, and I'm like, dude, that was my reaction. I'm like, I just loved it so much. They play the fucking long game when they write this, and it can sometimes feel unsatisfying at the time. But I honestly, they are like all this stuff worked together to make happen what happened to you. My biggest fear is where the hell do they go now?
Yeah, I don't know. Well, apparently they're going outside of Eorzea, or if it will, of the first, and are stepping off into the white blank space.
Wasteland. Yeah, whatever it's called, I can't remember.
So we might be, and I guess we're moving into Eden
empty.
spoilers a little bit, right? So here's your Eden spoiler alert. Eden spoilers, Eden spoilers, Eden spoilers. All right. We're kind of moving into a place where we're trying to bring the ethereal balance back in the rest of the world. We may have more places to explore in 6.0 if it goes that direction. So Eden, right?
Eden didn't knock my socks off. It kind of went where I expected it to, but I was satisfied. The last two fights were really fun. The first fight was like, eh. So basically we know that 100 years ago, the flood of light was stopped by Minfilia, Ghost Minfilia. And it had basically eaten up, what did they say? He gave, Urianger said a percentage.
9/10.
It's like 9/10 of the world is just fucking dust right now. No ether, nothing. It's just gone. It's just white dust. And, but not Minfield, Rain. Rain is like, I feel something out there, let's go check it out. So that's what you do. And you apparently have a sand speeder. I don't know what the hell you have.
They found it in the Crystal Tower.
Yeah, so the Warrior of Light and Urianger cuddle in the back seat while Rain rides shotgun and oh fuck, my brain just shut off. Anyway, Thancred drives, and you drive for a while, and they make it very clear you can't stay here very long, and they pitch 2 giant tents, and they're like, there's this thing in the the white empty dust, and it's Eden. And it's a little weird where Rain is like, I think I can tell it what to do, and we're like, okay. And she does. We fight some stuff, and she controls the stuff, and then we fight more stuff, and she controls the stuff, and then it becomes this whole, well, it's not really evil. It was just doing a thing. If I can tell it to do a different thing, we can maybe restore the rest of the planet. Mm-hmm. So you basically fight Eden for control in the first turn, right? The second turn is, I don't even know. The Scion of Darkness comes and tries to kick your ass because
it's a void scent is what you're fighting. Yes. This void scent. It's like, what the fuck is a void scent doing on the first?
World.
These are light wardens we're supposed to be dealing with, not void scent. So you fight the void scent, drops this girl, has a armor on though, can't see her face, don't know what she looks like, anything of that nature, only that she may be a girl around the age of Rain. And then you have 2 more fights. These are the great ones. Leviathan.
Oh my god, spoilerness, but they basically decide that to restore the elements to this world, you have to basically, and this, I felt conflicted, Ruby. Mm-hmm. I'm like, you want me to summon Leviathan.
Yep. To kill it.
So that we can restore water to the world. Mm-hmm. Okay.
So we pilot the deal over to some spot to summon water. We bring up, and they're like, imagine. So it's kind of like
concentrate. Visualize Leviathan. And he's got a head and a tail. But when I zoned in, he had 2 heads. It was weird.
And he
Ruby, did everyone in your party be like, we're bad at visualization?
Actually, my group did pretty well at this, other than, a lot of people fell through the floor. Mm-hmm. I was a little surprised when I saw Shinryu mechanics, and then I thought, oh, the Warrior of Light is mixing fights up in his
memory.
head.
Yeah, apparently something. Well, Ruby, all I could think of is creation magic. Do you remember how Griffins started? I was thinking, or not Griffins, Chimeras, was it?
Chimeras.
I was trying to create a lion, and I noticed an eagle, and so it was a lion with wings. And I'm like, oh my god, this is all my creation magic. All of the summonings that the Ashians were teaching beast tribes was all fucking creation magic.
Thank
I'm
you.
Like, oh my fucking god.
That is the whole heart of this thing. And this is something that I want people to understand, is that the Ascians or Amarosians, whatever, they use creation magic willy-nilly, whether it destroy their planet or not, but I feel like it's implied.
They were full of aether. I think that's the thing. They had so much aether, they didn't know any other way.
They didn't know any other way. So they resorted to creation magic for everything, even to solve their problems. When creation magic was the problem, we create more magic. And what's funny is through all of this, and all their creation magic destroying their own society and creating the two gods that are sundered and all this other stuff, their plan, the Ascians' plan, is to teach people creation magic to create gods so they can create more destruction, so they can it's almost like they don't learn. They do not learn.
They're single-minded.
It's a one-trick pony.
I feel like they're creative, but they can't think outside the box or something?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. So anyway, I think that's a major takeaway, though. So we too, whether we're one of the 14 or whatever's going on, we too can use the creation magic. And through that, we've mixed some fights up. So we have Leviathan and a little bit of Shinryu. And I'm sure some other stuff thrown in the mix, but that was the major vibe.
And the music. The music was...
Whoa, it was Leviathan.
It was Leviathan, but something. Yeah.
It was very...
I really felt the music, though, on the next one.
Oh, yeah. So,
yeah.
I mean, what after water would you want to fix a planet with? And none other than Earth. And who would we fight but good old Titan?
Titan. And then that... Ruby, did you click... The landslides.
Oh, yes. The landslides. Our response to... What do you remember?
I had a real human life flashback to 2.0. When 2.0 came out, and the entire fucking free company that I was a part of then basically cleared it. No one responded to my pleas for help, and I tried to fight it, and my latency is so bad. I died over and over again. I had a very bitter tweet 6 years ago about Leviathan, about Titan. And that's all I could think of. I'm like, I'm going to hate this forever, and I'm going to rage quit this game.
Yeah, Reed says something. And like, you must have some really negative memories about this encounter or something like that.
That must have been harsh. And
yeah.
Yes.
It's like, well, yeah, you didn't get put into the parties with all the people, all the good people put in the party. And Let's
see if you can clear this when you're dead.
Clear this when you're dead. Lay on the ground. Yeah.
It was. Sell it.
Yeah, it was pretty funny. So we do Titan, and Titan is melded. I couldn't really figure out who he was melded with. I kept thinking like Grinwald or whatever his name is that has all that mechanical stuff in Stormblood.
Titan had those wheels, right? It was a vehicle, so I feel like he still had a loincloth.
He
that
did.
Was
Thank
my
God.
takeaway was I remember learning Titan EX back in the day, and he had a loincloth, and he still has a loincloth.
It was a safe spot. Stand under his loincloth.
No, they're like if you're. Oh no, I used to type if you're not sniffing the loincloth, you're too far away. But no, he's. I thought I would never learn his mechanics. I've done it 3 times now. I've cleared it 3 times, helping other people, but. Once you learn the names for abilities, it's not that bad. So do not... I'm actually way worse at the Leviathan one. But he's like I don't know, a transformer on steroids. It hurts. That fight hurts. I don't even know if there's a... I don't think there's actually a... what do you call that when you can't win the fight because it does something at the end?
Unskippable?
No, we're Enrage. I don't know if there's an Enrage in either of those. Probably not.
It kept going for a long time for us. I mean, the DPS was a little slow in our party. I think, melees probably have a hard time with this because you have to dodge a lot of squares.
Oh my god, melees. Well, honestly, melees, pretty much anyone who has to sit... Black mages probably have a hard time. Anyone who has to sit and cast... I had a hard time because I couldn't even, stop for a second to raise someone even with Swift cast a couple times. I'm like, really? I'm not okay with though. We had someone, basically solo rage quit, but really, all the parties I had were, and again, it's patch day. Very understanding, very willing to figure out the things. No one was barking out orders for the most part. Most people were like, oh, I think what's happening is, and that's my favorite day to play. My favorite day to play is not someone who basically zones in and starts setting up waymarks and telling people what to do when it's your first time.
Right.
I have seen some Twitters and some Discord chats and Reddit chats that were like, well, why would you want to waste time? Everyone should watch a fucking video. And it's
Give me
like,
a break.
No. Do you have any idea how much joy some people, including me, get from being in a group of like-minded people who are willing to try and fail, learn, try and succeed? Watching a video and just pushing the buttons in the way the guide tells you is not nearly as satisfying as, oh, it does this and this and this, and then, oh, this is what I did this last time and it didn't work. Let's try this. All right, let's go. Pull again. And we did have people who noticed, oh, it's at 74% and 7 out of 9 are dead. Everybody else jump off the edge. I'm okay with that. Mm-hmm. People are like, we had a couple polls on one that was like, well, let's just keep going. I kept going because it's like, oh, let's see, let people see the mechanics, because I've learned stuff about mechanics being dead, but, I don't know. By next week, all the parties will be like, do it right, scrub or be kicked.
Wow.
So
you kicked me.
I don't know. But today was good for you, right? I thought.
Oh, today was incredible for me. I didn't have any issues with any of my parties. I told you earlier a funny story about a tank that did a 30-second countdown because somebody complained that he pulled gross the time before and then said adjust. But nobody rage quit. Nobody had any issues. In fact, I felt like I did the mechanics like a boss. Like when I did the what was I guess it's the Leviathan fight that has the floors that fall out from underneath you. I didn't fall down. I don't know. Luckily, I didn't fall down. And then after I saw the center fall, I was like, oh, this goes back and forth, doesn't it? So I figured that part out. So, and we didn't really talk about this, but the Final Fantasy VIII themes throughout, right? So you have Final Fantasy VIII music and such. And one thing I want to add to that is that the last boss of the Academia dungeon, which has a lot of La Habrea lore, I believe in that, is the Quetzalcoatl from Final Fantasy VIII. So if you're not familiar with that, there's a giant...
None of that made any sense to me, honestly.
Yeah, sorry.
I didn't understand why Quetzalcoatl... Now, I'm from Final Fantasy XIV and Quetzalcoatl was my server, but I didn't...
In 8, you learn it at Balam Garden. It's part of the academics, so you have to... You learn the GF.
So it fits. Okay.
So it's actually something that's taught to you, and so... It could be said that the Academia is a mirror to the gardens because they wear similar robes. If you look at the teachers at the Balam Garden and the other gardens, they're all uniformed in these long robes with their faces covered.
I honestly don't think I made it that far. I cannot wait for the 8 remaster.
It's going to be nice. And they even said that they didn't mean for this to happen at the same time as that. They should have known something. But, it worked out that we got the 8 announcement around the time that... Eden is dropped. So overall, I'm happy. And if you want my overall for Shadowbringers story, including Eden, it's a 10 of 10. I love the story. I love the music. I'm loving everything about it. I'm waiting to see some battle changes. We got a little bit of potency today. I'm hoping for more. So if there's anyone I take a point away from, it's the battle stuff. I'm just not super, super happy with Summoner at the moment. There's a double weave that is required almost between every single global cooldown cast, and it just feels very clunky.
See, and my latency would never allow for it. I would never be able to do good DPS. It's just kind of unfair. So I'm hoping they change those things. I think they will. I think people give good feedback and whatever.
We'll see how it goes. You can't always have the best. I mean, it's overpowered in Stormblood. I'll tell you that much. But But yeah, that's my overall assessment. What about you?
I was actually not. I was surprised at the order of mobs or floors in Eden. The fact that you kind of fight Eden Prime first, which makes me think you're gonna fight Eden later. For more, because like I feel like you wrested control too early, and I think they did that in Omega too, where they threw you something that fucked you up later. But the fact that you did Leviathan and restored water, and then you did Titan and restored some Earth, and it sounds like where you've done it should. I keep thinking of ley lines. They talked about ethereal currents or whatever, but the changes you make should spread throughout the world. So we have six elements in 14 plus astral and umbral. Mm-hmm. So I expect there fully to be 6 elemental type fights.
Right.
But that still leaves 6 more fights. We've already done 2. So I'm expecting kind of like 4 more fights that are like, come out of the blue or something. So, and I'm interested to see where it goes. I'm hoping, and I'm fully expecting that the Eden storyline will make it so the rest, the other 9/10 of the world are habitable again. Mm-hmm. And then, we think about the 13th shard, and is there anything we could do? Can we go back there and do that? And the other shards that are still existing. We have 1 Ashian left, right? Mm-hmm. We have
Elidibus.
1 Elidibus is left. He's hanging out on the moon. How dangerous is he?
He's the emissary of Zodiark. I mean, he's the mouthpiece of Zodiark. So he's the White Ascian. He could be the worst of them all. We don't know. Yeah,
so we don't know. But I'm very interested to see where it goes. I'm very interested to see if there's going to be more story about who my player character is and who they are in the world, the worlds, the shards. Is there going to be more discussion? They've talked about it. So I don't know. Yeah, I feel good. I don't know. I honestly still can't hardly listen to the Shadowbringers theme in my car. I can't sing along because I get a little catch in my throat, and I keep thinking about Emmett Selk, and Christ, everything he did was out of missing his friends.
Yeah.
His people. And people are like, well, he wants to, end the source, wipe out life on the source to resummon his friends. And I'm like, bitch, we just had someone end an entire timeline, which is probably doomed anyway, but they used fucking time travel to hopefully, rewrite history because they were losing. Mm-hmm. People kept being like, Emmett Selk should just give up. This is what it is now. And I'm like, Biggs didn't. Mm-mm. The Ironworks didn't. They sent a man through time hundreds of years, and he summoned Scions and the Warrior of Light, and, really, we've done as much or more than Emmett Selk did, and it's, I can't blame him.
It's a hard argument to make, although you could also make the same argument that, he helped cause a genocide many times over, and so he's bad. But
I keep coming back to, but he really figures everyone who isn't joined again is a hamster.
Right.
Or lettuce, and right? They're not
which is analogous to, if you wear this emblem on your shirt, maybe you're less of a human being than I am.
Well, and in the story, though, he was hopeful that we were more. He was so disappointed that we couldn't contain the light. Mm-hmm. Right? I feel like he was really surprised when we showed up as someone else in his vision.
Yeah.
But I think he really thought we were something else also. So, I don't know.
It's an interesting
hard-hitting.
story, and we haven't... We barely scratched the surface here. We've got plenty more 5.0 that's going to be coming up in the next 2 years. It's going to get wild, and I don't think it's the complete end of it, so...
Well, we're not done yet.
No.
And Ruby, I have a fear. I have a fear where this was so fucking huge. What could they possibly do now?
Well, everything is going to have a peak at some point. I hope this is not the peak, but everything eventually does have a peak. So, is 6.0 going to be as good as 5.0? Or 4.0 sure as hell wasn't good as 3.0, but that doesn't mean 7.0 can't be great.
Yeah. Well, Stormblood was weak. Certain arcs I really did enjoy, but lots of stuff I did not. And yeah, even with Shadowbringers, there were things I didn't enjoy, or things I could be like, well, that was really weak. There are weaknesses, but no, it was awe-inspiring, literally, to me.
Mm-hmm. One thing I don't want to forget before we move on is Urion J is amazing, and he had a shout out to Moonbrita in the Eden storyline.
Yes.
And I wasn't gonna let that go because I love Moonbrita, and it's sad. And I was hoping they'd bring her back or something. I need her back.
I know that was another one of those where they're like,
or let her face float around in the beginning. When you pass Oshafont, those little crystal shards. Maybe I need to go back and look at that scene again and see if I can see her face in one of the reflections.
I'm really sad because they added a cool, fun, compelling character and then fucking murdered her.
Yep.
But yeah,
they did her wrong.
All right. We're just gonna skip what's on tap tonight. I think. We are already 2 hours, but I do want to move on to Happy Hour.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where Belle Dandy, our own sweet Belle Dandy, who is hard at work at college, and I hate you for doing so well. He had a comment on episode 171, and he says, no spoilers, but the best MMORPG expansion I've ever been a part of, both in content and execution. Now, while we haven't seen the raids, Savage, 24-Man, and Ultimate, I'm very happy that everything we did up to this point mattered in some way. The expansion had me in tears of pure emotion. Can't wait to hear your spoiler cast. Ruby, do you know how many men, women, we tend to cry a lot,
Mm-hmm.
But, if you're going to be generalizing, but I have seen so many guys being like, Christ, it's dusty in here. During parts of the storyline. They're like, I'm not crying, but I'm crying. So
I'm not crying, you're crying.
There's a lot of emotion in Shadowbringers. I really, that writer, she has done such a good job. I hope that she's being properly rewarded and given shout-outs. And what did she do? She did another storyline. Was it Phrase the Darkness story? What storyline did she do?
I think you're right about that. That's all the good ones. Yelta is the answer.
Yeah. It's my understanding all the stuff that made me tear up, and I'm not a fucking crybaby, but this game has not made me a fucking crybaby.
It was, it's serious. Yeah.
Yeah. But I think the fact that almost every character's motivation is out of brotherhood or love or companionship or loss, right? Mm-hmm. Stuff people who play the game can really, really relate to. And she's done, I feel bad I don't remember her name. But we'll talk big about her next week. But Christ, what good writing.
Yes.
All right, last call. I do have a shout-out. Phoenix Down Radio, Klaus and myself. Phoenix Down Radio tweeted out, want to hang out with Yelta Sumasu from GTFFXIV and Phoenix Down Klaus at Up Down Minneapolis. Like beer, pizza, and video games, mark the date on your calendars. Tune in tonight's episode for more details. This is when Klaus was recording. Geek Out and Game On with Phoenix Down Radio and Gather Together. This is on Saturday, August 3rd, starting at 6 p.m. at the Up Down Minneapolis. That's 3012 Lindell Avenue South. I'm going to be there. Klaus is going to be there. I'm hoping Kariri, my dear sister, and the other host from this podcast, I'm hoping we will all be there. I'm hoping Ulf will be there for food, drinks, chat, and just general hanging out. So, Ruby, this was driven by jealousy of you and Work to Game hanging out, right? You know that, right?
I feel it. I feel the jealousy.
By the way, there's no parking in Minneapolis, so just park at the closest ramp and pay the $12 and just man up.
I think it just shows that Gather Together has the North wrapped up, the South wrapped up. We need two more co-hosts. We need one on the East Coast, one on the West Coast. We'll take the whole country.
I keep thinking that we should pick a long weekend or something where you drive north on 35W and I drive south on 35W.
Okay.
And we just meet up somewhere in the middle.
Some Midwestern state.
I'm actually super excited. I looked at the venue, the Up Down in Minneapolis. Looks like, I think it's like a video game bar or something. So I'm looking forward to hanging out. I'm awkward in person, but if you want to come and see us, Klaus is he's so nice and so fun to be around, and I just really look forward to spending time with him. I've met up with him a few times. We've gotten together for a New World concert, and we've gotten together for a couple other things. We've had, dinner at, Mickey's Diner, and it's always a really good time. So if you can find some time on Saturday, August 3rd at 6 p.m., we should be there for a few hours because Mama Yelta likes her drinks. But, yeah, come join us. Hang out. All right, then. I guess it's closing time. God, this got long. I didn't think it would. You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. You can find links to all of our episodes and blog posts on our website, gtffxav.com. While you're there, please leave us a comment. And if you'd like to, you can support us by clicking the donation button. You can find us on Twitter at gtffxav. Email us at gtffxav@gmail.com. Please rate us. Personal plugs, Ruby.
Yes, you can find me at Rubicon Vale on Twitter, RubiconVale.
And you can find me on Twitter at Yelta Sumasu, YeltaSumasu. As always, thanks for listening, and we will catch you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.